All right, hey, welcome to the Empower Series, my online audience. Thank you for showing up. That's the big part of the day. Are you grateful for waking up?
Absolutely.
Show your gratefulness. Give some love. So my friend Michael Collier would always say, the minute we woke up, we've already won. Because there's some people who didn't wake up today. So, you know Michael then, right? You know Michael. Right, so again, I want to thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for showing up online. As I always say, share the Empower Series with somebody, because there's somebody in your circle that can be blessed by us. So don't keep us a secret. The only way they'll find out about the Empower Series is if you share it. So again, I want to thank you for showing up. Thank AE Media Group. Thank the City of Dallas for allowing us to use this facility at the Martin Luther King Jr. Recreational Center. I want to thank our speakers. I'm going to introduce them in a minute. I want to thank Charmaine. Charmaine is a co-host. Our longtime sponsor has been Comerica Bank. They've been sponsoring us for 13 years, and we're always looking for more sponsors. So I am so fortunate to be able to have our co-host, Charmaine Byers, who is my real estate agent. And so I want to thank you, Charmaine, for being so gracious to co-host with us.
Yes.
You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm not Mike.
Oh, yeah. Here. That's what this is for. This is yours.
Oh, it's heavy.
Oh, and then also, always, like, since they don't have a mic, if they have a question, repeat it.
Repeat it.
Okay.
Okay, well, you guys, welcome again. My name is Charmaine Byers. I am a broker associate with Coldwell Banker Apex Realtors. And we are excited to talk about estate planning today. How many of you have thought about estate planning but felt like it wasn't for you? So everybody feels like it's for you and you're ready to get started.
Everybody has their plan together, right?
Everybody has their plan together, right?
No. Okay, now.
Okay. Well, a part of being a part of the Empower series is to empower you with information, to educate you, but it only makes sense if you take it a step further and implement what you've learned. So we like to say that education without implementation is just entertainment. So we are not here to entertain you, but we are here to help you to build a legacy for your family and our communities.
Charmaine, thank you.
Thank you.
And so Charmaine's going to be back. What we're going to do is we're going to do a brief presentation. I'm going to talk to you from a financial planning perspective, the importance of working with a financial planner to begin the thought process of planning. And then I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Cordell Reynolds. He's going to be talking to you about protection and the different types of insurance that should be a part of everybody's plan. And then we're going to end up talking to our attorney, L.D. Thomas. He's going to talk about the estate planning process. Since he does this for a living, he's an estate planning attorney. He's going to give you a wealth of information. So we're going to talk for around 10 or 15 minutes individually. And then at the very end, we're going to have a panel discussion where you can be engaged and ask your questions. So we want to make sure that we're giving you the information you need to take action on. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I'll introduce myself last, but first let me introduce L.D. Thomas to you. So he's a dedicated attorney and community leader. L.D. specializes in estate planning, probate, and heirship law. His commitment to providing excellent, exceptional legal solutions he's been doing that for over 15 years. And he also does that in real estate, as well as he's a very sought-after advisor. So he'll do a much better job than I do in telling you all that he does. But I want you to welcome LD.
Thank you.
And then Cordell Reynolds. Cordell has been an Empower Series speaker before.
Yes.
When we were at what's that?
The library.
Hiding Hills Library, right? That was back in the teens, right? Before COVID.
Yes.
So Cordell is a managing partner at Grace Unlimited Group. He has a passion for helping people, specifically entrepreneurs and families, secure their future. With over a decade of experience in financial services, insurance, as well as in the real estate market and mortgages as well. He is a go-to expert when it comes to advice around protecting your assets. So again, they're going to do a more detailed presentation. My name is Clifton Johnson. I'm the founder of the Empower Series. I'm not going to bore you with my long history, but for the past 20 years, I've been a financial advisor, and I've met with a lot of people, and I've helped them put some structured thought to their finances. So what I'm going to do to start this off is I just want to have an engaging conversation with you. Charmaine asked you earlier, how many of you have your estate plan together? So let's do the positive piece of it. How many of you have an estate plan that is updated, on point, and is good to go? Raise your hand. So not many of you, right? How many of you actually work with a financial advisor? Raise your hand. Okay, I would say that from the audience raising your hand, around 25% of Americans work with financial advisors. But do you realize that the people who work with financial advisors usually have more accumulated in wealth? If you want to measure wealth, they have more money saved up than people who don't work with financial advisors. They're more prepared for their retirement, and they're more prepared for unexpected things that's going to happen in life. So if you haven't met with a financial advisor yet, I would encourage you to either talk to go to the bank that you bank at, talk to a banker, and ask to speak with a financial advisor. Finding a financial advisor is like finding, a spouse. It's kind of difficult, right? But it's a relationship-based business. So if you have an experience with a financial advisor or any kind of financial professional that wasn't positive, I would say don't throw all relationships out with the bathwater. If you've had a bad date before, you haven't given up on dating, I hope. So find a financial advisor that you can relate with, that you can share your goals with, and it's going to give you advice that's in your best interest. But that's very important. So the Empower series can be your financial advisor. The reason we started the Empower series is because when I was meeting with people, I was realizing that a lot of us was not coming to me. I was meeting with a lot of people, and my companies were hiring me to work with people who had a lot of money. They weren't paying me to work with people that had, let's say, a lot of debt, and they wanted to get out of debt, or they didn't have enough liquidity saved up, 3 to 6 months of their living expenses saved up, and they weren't in a position to have discretionary cash left over every month so that they can invest into protection vehicles or investment vehicles. And so I figured I had to go out to the community. So I started doing workshops on the third Saturday of every month. And hence we're here after 13 years, pouring into the community, addressing the same topics that I talk to my clients about. So today we're going to talk about estate planning. Now, estate planning is not sexy. How many people love talking about estate planning? Okay, yeah. So, 2. But how many people know that we need, there's a lot of times that we need to talk about things, but we just don't talk about them. So what I used to tell my clients is this. We have the right to talk about, retirement, going on vacations, living the lifestyle, living it up. We have the right to do that only to the extent that we have talked about protection and laying a sound foundation. So when you're looking at any type of planning that you're doing, there's 3 cornerstones to it. One cornerstone is the financial planning process, having goals, sitting down with a financial advisor, knowing what your income and expenses are, your assets and your liabilities, and making sure that your behaviors are consistent towards your goals, right? Your values. The other part of that is protection. And Cordell's going to talk to us about the protection piece, but it's really making sure that you not just have your iPhones protected with insurance, but not just your house and your cars, but also your life, your income, your health, as well as your long-term care. And so those are things to have part of your foundation. Then the other piece of that is your estate planning. But I say that to say, how many people are into sports? I got some analogies here real quick. I want to just throw them out, and then I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get off the stage real quick. But if you look at construction, you all know that for construction, you have to have a strong foundation, right? You can have a nice house, several levels high, but if your foundation is weak, it's going to crash, right? Or if you're laying a brick wall, you got these nice bricks that you're stacking up, but if the foundation is slanted, it's going to be a weak wall. So if you're a construction person, you know about that. I was talking about sports. So we all know that in basketball, the three-point shot, Steph Curry, all day. Offense is great, but you're never going to win a championship unless you got some defense. Or in football, like anything else, you can score, but if you don't have a strong defense, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. Last analogy is a garden. So when you look at planting any kind of seed into soil, you can have nice flowers, but the ability for the flowers to blossom is going to be based on the soil. Or even a ship, you can have a luxury ship, but it's not going to be a nice cruise if you got a hole in the hull, right? So what we're talking about here is how do we lay a strong foundation? And I would tell you that in most cases, when you're thinking about financial planning or when you think about estate planning, you're going to meet with an attorney. But I would encourage you to meet with a financial advisor in addition to an attorney, because a financial advisor is going to give you some structured questions for you to think about to help you already put some thoughts together before you meet with an attorney, because the attorney is going to be great in talking about strategies. He's going to be great in giving you, creating the documents, because nobody can practice law but an attorney. However, but if you haven't decided who's going to be the agent in the event that you can't make financial decisions for yourself or you can't make medical decisions, an attorney cannot tell you who that should be. You've got to look through your Rolodex, look around your family. If you don't have any good family, you got to look for friends. So having those kind of discussions with a financial professional or someone, before you take the time with an attorney is very important. And so those are the things that you can do. You do have handouts in front of you. One of the handouts that you have, and one of the handouts that is on, hey, Charmaine, can you, oh, here it is. Nope, I got it right here. All of the handouts, if you're watching online, is in the description section, but you should have a handout that looks like this. And on the back, it has 2 QR codes. This is my handout. It has the Empower Series logo on it, and on the bottom is my contact information. So you can read this, but I'm going to tell you right now that the value of meeting with a financial advisor is really 4 things. What we do is we help you organize your life, and we start with your finances. So a lot of times, we're spending money, we're on the go, and we don't even know where our money's going. So we'll start with helping you identify your income, where it's coming from, where it's going, putting some structure to that, identifying all of your assets, what they are, and also your liabilities and your net worth. And we'll create a book that helps you just organize all of your finances. Because one of the things that happens when someone passes away, I'll just tell you my personal experience. My brother passed away of COVID in 2020. And when he passed away, unfortunately, he passed away in his home and he was by himself. So the first thing is that we didn't hear from my brother, and we called around and we did a wellness check, and then we found that he had passed in his home. So the first thing that we had to deal with is, what do we do with Taro? And it's a morbid thing to think about, but it's life, right? At some point, we're not going to wake up. So the first thing that I talk to my clients about when we talk about financial planning is, what do you do when you don't wake up? What type of experience do you want your family to have when you don't wake up? And we don't know if it's going to be a long, drawn-out disease that puts us away. We're in hospice, or like my brother, we find out that he passed away at home by himself. But we have to deal with that. And then if I talk to my brother about estate planning and financial planning, he never told me anything about what he was doing. And I'm a financial advisor, right? But he never told me anything. But I was the one that was responsible enough to help his ex-wife and his 2 children who were in college figure that out. And I navigated that through, because as a financial advisor, I usually do that for my clients. So we had to deal with the arrangements, the services, and I navigated through that process. But it would have helped if Taro would have told me what he wanted.
What's Taro?
Taro's my brother's name, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, so Taro's my brother's name, and so it would have helped if he had talked to me about it or laid some guidelines out for it to his family. The only thing he really said is that he wanted his ashes sprinkled in California, and we eventually did that in 2023, but that was the only thing. Nothing was documented. And so what I had to do is I had to go to his apartment and deal with all of his stuff. And then as far as estate planning goes, I had to identify, so where are his assets? Where does he work? Where are his benefits? None of that stuff was organized. So the value of meeting with a financial advisor is that we put structure and organization to your finances, and we ask you questions like that so that you can start putting some thought to what type of experience do you want your family to have when you're gone? Let's begin to organize your life in a way to where you leave a legacy of love and not mess for your loved ones when that happens. So that's one of the things that we do as a financial advisor. The other thing that we can do is make sure that all of your beneficiaries for all of your accounts are updated to who you want it to go to. When LD talks to you about estate planning and measuring the estate, he will talk about what assets are part of your estate and what assets can be passed on to the beneficiaries outside of probate in a very smooth way. So we'll make sure that we identify your estate planning goals. We'll help you set up all of your investment accounts in a way to where they're going to go immediately to your beneficiaries and not be delayed, and ultimately make sure that your family, in the midst of emotionally going through your loss, is not going to have to make some hard financial decisions at that time. The other thing we'll talk about is some strategies to reduce taxes. We'll also talk about insurance. Some financial advisors are insurance agents, and they can handle that. Some are not, and what they'll do is they'll either introduce you to an insurance agent, but having those discussions around your life and just organizing that is very important. And so please take this handout, look at it front and back, have any questions, it will lay it all out. The last thing I want to share with you is you should have, if you registered, I emailed you all of the links to our handouts. So if everybody can see this is the RRAP, or AARP, yeah, our AARP Personal Estate Planning course. There's a book, a lesson book, and then there's a record book. The lesson book really does it good to educate you on the different types of documents that are part of the estate planning process that LD is going to go into more detail with you about. The record book is what the advisor can do and help you organizing your life, identifying key information and putting it in one place in a binder with some tabs where you can easily put this in a location at your home, and then someone can go through and identify all the different places you work, all of your different benefits, your assets, your most recent statements. I usually have my clients update this book every year by putting annual statements for their bank accounts, all of their debts, their investments, retirement accounts, different places that they've worked, because in some cases, you may go to different jobs and you used to have a retirement account there, or insurance policies. And then how about this? You know, when you have online accounts, you usually have to have a username and a password. So a digital book that has all of that information. And then with the verification now, they're going to send a link, they're going to send a code to your cell phone. And do you know the password? What's the password to your phone? So having the password to your loved one's cell phone in a location like this is very important, because when I was going through the process of trying to identify the value of my brother's estate, I didn't have access to all of that stuff. I had to figure it out. I had to go to financial institutions. I had to call employers and just muddle through that. And so if you want to provide a better experience for your loved ones, it's about organizing your life now and going through that process. The first thing I would encourage you to do, if you're going to take anything away from this, please take the time to meet with a financial advisor. And before you meet with a financial advisor, you can go through the book that, the link that I gave you, and really begin to just document where are all of your assets, where are all of your debts, what are the things that you need to identify. And then begin to also look at your final arrangements. And tough conversation, but it's important, okay? So with that, I want to pass the baton to Cordell. Cordell's going to talk to you about protection, and it's very important because that's one piece that people don't look at. He's going to let you know that protection is more than just life insurance. So without any further ado, I'm going to set you up, Cordell, and you can go through your presentation.
Welcome.
How are y'all doing today? Good. I'm going to need a little bit of interaction, just a little bit, not a lot, just going to ask for just a little bit, okay? Thank you, sir. All right, so Clifton, he really set it up for me to have a good conversation with you guys, and one of the things he mentioned quite often was assets. So if you guys would do me a favor, can you shout out a couple of assets that you know about for me, please? Your house? Cars? Bank accounts? Jewelry? Business? All of that is great. But the most important asset is you and your ability to earn. Right? Because none of that happens without that ability. So what we're going to talk about is protecting that most important asset. We're required to have insurance on our cars. You're required to have insurance on your house. You're going to protect your business as much as possible if you own a business. But we don't do a good enough job of actually protecting our own lives. Okay? So we're going to talk about 2 of the 4 pillars. So I think there's about 4 pillars that really we need to have to be totally protected. And it's a longer conversation than we have time for to go through the entire process. But we're going to talk about the two foundational pillars of that today. The first one we're going to talk about is health insurance. Raise your hand if you have health insurance. All right? Pretty much all of us are insured in here. But do you know what your insurance means? Do you know how to properly utilize your insurance? Do you monitor and review your insurance on an annual basis to make sure that it actually protects what you actually need? Okay? There's a couple of different things that we can talk about when it comes to medical insurance, but essentially medical insurance is protection from the catastrophic coverage, right? So if the worst case scenario happens, you're not going to be in a position where you're financially destitute because of that medical emergency. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story about one of our clients, actually. We started, our company started helping them a couple of years ago. This company, my wife and I actually just bought the company. We purchased the company from my aunt. So this was one of her clients prior to us coming on board, but we got to know them during this process. This couple, actually young husband and wife, entrepreneurs. Most of our clients are entrepreneurs, but we work with everyone. But young entrepreneur couple came to us telling us that they didn't really think they needed to have health insurance. They're young, they're healthy, they had good savings. They really did. They did a really good job of saving, and they felt like if anything happened, they'd be able to take care of it. They unexpectedly got pregnant. They were not planning to get pregnant. They were planning to actually work a little bit longer before they had that baby. But we all know life happens, right? So they unexpectedly got pregnant. First 5 months, everything's going great. Then they have the baby 2 months early. 2 months early, that's a lot of time in the hospital. That's a lot of time in that NICU unit. That's a lot of time with them really trying to figure out, is our baby going to be okay? The fortunate thing was they actually listened to my aunt. They did get insurance. So they were only out of pocket for the actual entire process for just their maximum out of pocket, even though the medical bills were over $100,000. They were not financially prepared to pay $100,000 for medical bills. They were able to really focus on just loving and caring for their baby during that tough process and being able to continue to maintain their business. They didn't lose any of those things because they were financially protected. That's what health insurance does. So I gave you guys a handout, and one of the handouts is going to talk about a few things about how you actually determine what is good insurance and how you actually review to make sure that you're properly protected. There's only 3 on this, but there are 4 things that I really want you to focus on when it comes to life insurance, well, health insurance, I apologize. The first thing is going to be, of course, those premiums. We all got a budget, right? Every single one of us got a budget. We can only spend what we can spend. So we're going to start with focusing on those premiums, but the premium can't be the only thing. The lowest cost can't be the only thing that you're thinking about, right? So we have to think about, how does that premium work with the deductibles? Anybody know what a deductible is? I know I got it up there, but in your own words.
The payment you have to make before your insurance kicks in.
Exactly. So let's say you got a $2,000 deductible. That means that you're going to pay $2,000 worth of coverage before the insurance actually kicks in and covers anything. Now, that's not always true. We know we can have things what we call a copay, right? A copay is you go see the doctor because you got a little sniffle, you're trying to figure out what's going on. That sniffle is $50. It's going to cost you a $50 copay. The insurance is going to pay the rest of it. So things like that are typically going to have some copays in place for most insurance policies to protect you from those more often things. But the deductible is really going to go towards like your medical your medicines, or maybe even if you need to do some blood work, or if you're like me and you fall down and you hurt your shoulder and you got to go get an MRI, all of those things are covered under that deductible. Next up are going to be the network. Network is much more important than people think, right? So we all got that one doctor. You know, you got everybody else that you don't really care if they change or not, but we all, if you go to the doctor quite often, you got that one doctor that you just feel comfortable with. I'm 38, almost 39 years old, and I finally met my doctor last year, and I don't want to change her. So if I need to change my insurance is going to change to make sure that she's covered, right? So we all have that one doctor. We want to make sure that it's going to look after our best interest, make sure that we're doing the right things to make sure that we're healthy, to be able to take care of our family, to be able to earn income, to be able to provide for our family, to be able to provide that legacy for our family. And when you find that right partner, you want to make sure that the insurance covers them within that network. Because we don't want to get into the position of you find this doctor, you fall in love with the doctor, and you go see the doctor, and you have to have a procedure, and then you find out they're not covered, and now you got a $20,000 bill. Nobody wants to see that. All right. So, a couple of things. Health insurance keeps your savings intact. It ensures your family is cared for and protected during a crisis. So we talked about if medical crisis happens, your health insurance makes sure that you're going to be covered. Health insurance provides peace of mind for the future because you don't have to worry that if the worst case scenario happens, you can only focus on mentally and emotionally getting better and not have to worry about financially how you're going to pay for those things. And then finally, health insurance protects your legacy. Let's talk about the next pillar. The next pillar is going to be life insurance. Everybody have life insurance in here, correct? Yes. I heard one yes. All right. So this is real. I'm going to get a little bit frustrated right here because I don't want to see another GoFundMe or a fish fry for life insurance. To be quite honest, there's no reason for it. It doesn't cost that much. Let's be real. Like there are some policies out there that can cost you a lot of money. But to get the base protection to make sure that you're taken care of for your family, it just simply doesn't cost that much for you to be in the position where you're asking for somebody to provide you a fish fry when you could have just paid $15 a month, literally to make sure that you have something to take care of your family, take care of yourself and your family, okay? Life is fragile. Anybody watch the news this morning? Nobody? Nobody? I don't know, but I guarantee you something did. Something happened, right? Every single day. Every single day. We got somebody that died.
Yeah.
You know, it's the celebrities. I personally opened up my Facebook this month. I counted it before I came up here. 13 people.
Wow.
13 people that I know on my Facebook page this month are celebrating the life of one of their loved ones.
Wow.
Grandparents. My wife's celebrating the life of her aunt. We got one of my classmates, her little brother died in a car accident. Another one, her nephew died due to cancer at 18 years old. There's no timeline. None of us know when our time is going to call. We don't know. That's all up to God. But what we have to do is make sure that when that time does happen, we are protected. And not for just ourselves. You see my wife and my daughter over there. I absolutely love them. I would do anything for my wife and my kids. But if I didn't put myself in a position where I could financially protect them in the case that I'm no longer here, then everything that I do while I'm living really doesn't matter. I'm gonna tell you guys another story real quick. This is about a client that my wife has actually gotten pretty close with over the last couple of months. And unfortunately, his situation isn't quite as bright. We got a client that's a 32-year-old trucker. He drives across the road. He's out 3, 4, 5 days a week, every single week. Married, 2 kids. About 4 months ago, he got a call. The call nobody wants to hear. His wife's been in a car accident. His kids survived, but his wife didn't. She didn't make it. He came and he protected himself because he was the breadwinner. He made sure that if something were to happen to him, his wife and kids were taken care of. But he didn't take our advice and protect his wife as well. So now he's in a position where he can't go work. How do you go on the road as an immigrant? He don't have family here. How do you go on the road for 4 or 5 days a week with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old? You just can't do it. So he's in a position where not only is he still mourning the loss of the love of his life, the mother of his children, his life partner, but he's trying to figure out how he's going to pay for their rent, how he's going to pay for daycare, how he's going to go out and actually find another job of something that he can do when this is the only thing that he's known since he's been in this country. We don't have to be there. None of us have time to put that decision off. And we all have the ability, to be quite frank, of providing something. And that's our job, is we don't want to put our families in a position where we are dealing with the emotional trauma of everything that life brings whenever we lose a loved one, but also trying to figure out the finances as well. Let's make at least one part of it easy. So we're going to talk about 2 different types of life insurance. There's a lot of different variations, but ultimately there are 2 types. There's term life, there's whole life. Term life is simply put, I'm renting this insurance for a period of time. That period of time can be as little as 1 year, it can be as long as 40. You determine how long you want that term to be, right? Because it's a term, you're renting it, it's a lot less expensive, okay? So if I, as a 38, almost 39-year-old male, wanted to get, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 worth of protection, I could probably get that for about $35 a month. Who in here can afford $35 a month? Like, being real, I can cut out McDonald's 2 times and I can pay for that. Starbucks. I cut Starbucks already, so it's McDonald's for me right now. Them fries got me in a chokehold. Now, the whole life protects you for the rest of your life up to age 100, and it has a guaranteed payout, and you can roll in some living benefits, which both of them you can. And those are the other types of protection that we talked about. Those other pillars are the living benefits that are going to be in place, if you don't pass, but something happens to you. Both of them give you the ability to roll in some living benefits, but that whole life is going to pay you out regardless. So either, as long as you're paying the premium, either upon your death or upon the age of 100, you're going to get the money for that life insurance policy. Okay, so those are the basis of it. Don't let anybody try to confuse you with all the other jargon and investing in things of that nature. Life insurance is for life insurance, and then you have all of the other things that you want to work with your estate attorney to be able to make sure that you get the best, your estate attorney and your financial advisor, to make sure that you get the best return on your money going forward. But ultimately, we're just in a position to make sure that we have the protection in place and have a plan in place, and ultimately your family knows that plan. That's the thing that I've seen so often. This happened to me personally. I had an aunt that passed away. This was 2013. I had an aunt that passed away. Her husband had died like 10 years earlier, so it was just her and her daughter. She only had 1 kid up in Chicago. And when my aunt passed, we were trying to figure out, okay, what's going on with the arrangements and everything like that, because we know she had insurance. She never told her daughter where to find the insurance, who the insurance was with, any of those things. So organizing your life and having that conversation and being prepared, not only for yourself, but for your loved ones as well, that's very, very important. We talked a little bit about life insurance and what it does, but ultimately it ensures that your family's financially secure. It provides stability during the emotional loss, and it keeps your family's home, lifestyle, and future intact. Now, we're going to talk about what health and life insurance are overall. So ultimately, these are 2 shields for you, right? Anybody else like Marvel movies and things like that, like the Captain America shield. Like that's like the ultimate protection right there, right? So just imagine now you got two of them. So regardless of if something happened to you, such as cancer, or whenever it happens to you, because it's going to happen to all of us, death, you got this shield of protection that's going to cover your family. You're going to protect your family's not only financial stability, but their lifestyle and their futures. My daughter will still get to go to college, regardless of if I'm here today or not. That's going to be taken care of. My wife will continue to be able to run our business, regardless of if I'm here or not. That's going to be taken care of. And vice versa. That's going to be taken care of for both of us already. We know that. We want to make sure that we're preserving our legacy, not just for ourselves. Ultimately, our job is to give our kids a head start, right? Nobody wants their kids starting in the exact same spot that we grew up in. Regardless of how you grew up, if it was the absolute picture-perfect situation or the worst situation ever, nobody wants to start them in the exact same position. We want to always move them up that ladder. And that's what this insurance and protection is about. It's about moving them up the ladder a little bit further. So I want you guys to take control of your family's future. So what's next? I gave you, like I said, I gave you a handout. Use that handout to actually review your insurance. Review your life insurance. Review the AAR. My services are free of charge. I don't charge you anything for any information. At any point, give me a call. Shoot me an email, text me, DM me, I don't care. Whatever you need to do to make sure that you get the information you need, please reach out, and I'm going to make sure that I can answer any question that I can. There's all of my contact information if you guys want to take that. If not, just see me afterwards, and I'll make sure I get it to you, okay? Thank you so much.
Alejandro, are we okay online? It looks like it was stuck. It's okay though? Okay. Hey, so great. Come on, more energy. That was good. So how many of you thought of some things that you need to do to take action on right now? If you did, I want you to take a moment right now. You should have a pad in front of you. If you don't have a pad, raise your hand and Sherry will get you a pad. But I want you to write down, what are you going to do? What action are you going to take right now? What ideas did you have that you need to go ahead and write down? I'm not seeing any people write right now. So. Oh, okay. What is this? Let's see. So while I'm doing this, you guys should be writing.
Can we have questions?
Okay, yeah. What now?
When will we be able to ask questions?
Yeah, so after LD does his presentation, we're going to have a panel discussion, then we're going to open up to questions. Okay? Yes?
Contact page, the last page.
Yeah, you can't see that, can you?
If you could put it up.
Do what now?
It's going to be a picture.
His contact information is here, isn't it?
The last page.
Oh.
The very last page.
This one. Okay, here you go. So take a picture of it. Have you guys wrote down something? So share it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because we're family. Speak up.
Family know where my life insurance policy is, how to find it.
Word. I got you. Anything else?
Make set an appointment with my financial advisor so we can have this conversation.
I'm loving you right now. Anybody else on this side?
Watch that AARP video thingy.
Okay, yeah. So go ahead and click on the links to all of the handouts are under the video, or it's in the email that I sent you. Go ahead and fill that out. Read through it. The Empower Series, we're here to accomplish 4 things. Whatever you envision, you can achieve. So we want you to have hope. We want you to be inspired to take action, because ideas with no action are just a dream. So take action. So please write down some ideas and actions. We're definitely going to educate you. You're going to get a wealth of education. from our next speaker on estate planning documents and strategies. So we're going to educate you, but then more importantly, we're connecting you to resources. So all of us are a resource. You have our contact information. You're going to have an opportunity, if you are interested in really talking to an attorney about your estate plan, you're going to have an opportunity to schedule a 30-minute virtual conversation with LD in the month of October only, because we're not doing this for the whole year. We need to do it now, right? That's right? So in the month of October, if you're serious, you can go ahead and contact LD and schedule a time to have a virtual conversation with him or an attorney that's within your state in the month of October, because October is Estate Planning Awareness Month. So, as you're getting up to speak, I'm going to get your presentation up and bring some energy. Let's go.
All right. All right, all right, all right. So we want some energy. First of all,
Okay.
to
can get it to you.
Clifton
Okay.
and the Empower Series, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for putting this on. Cordell, excellent presentation. Great information. Charmaine, thank you for, let's see, we got Clifton, Cordell, and Charmaine. The 3 C's and me. And they just throw me up here just, hey, you have at it. I am LD Thomas. I'm an estate planning, and let me make sure I got this working. Okay, yeah, that's me. And I promise you I'm going to get a new headshot. That's about 50 pounds ago. But I'm an estate planning and probate attorney here in the DFW area. I'm licensed in the state of Texas. I've had clients in San Antonio, all the way up to Amarillo. So it can go anywhere, but it makes a lot more sense for my clients here in the DFW area. My firm focuses solely on estate planning and probate and heirship. If you get arrested, do not call me. I am not the person to call, okay? The reason I point this out is because that allows us to go deep in this area of law. There are so many nuances, there are so many scenarios and situations, but because that's what we focus on, it's very rare that you're going to come and present something that we have not seen before, okay? What do we got next? Oh, yes. Always got to brag on yourself, right? You get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, or well, before 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday to come talk to you wonderful people. You got to do something to encourage yourself. One of the things I like to point out is our firm was named the best law firm in Black Dallas by the Dallas Weekly, which is a phenomenal publication, by the way, getting ready to celebrate 70 years. In 2020, 2022, and 2023. I don't know what happened in 2021, but that's a whole nother conversation. That is not because we are the biggest. This is definitely not because we made the most money. For me, I believe it's because of the level of customer service that we provide to our clients. Prior to getting into the legal field, I spent a lot of time in real estate as well as education and training. So it is important to me that my clients and anyone that comes and has a consultation with me understands what we are doing and why we are doing it. Estate planning is not a one-size-fits-all type of practice. You are different. Your family is different. Your goals are different. Your assets are different. Your estate plan is different. So your estate plan needs to be tailored to you, your life, your goals, and so on and so forth. So we make sure that you know what you're doing and what are these documents that you have me signing. All right, now let me read this really well, okay? Please note that the information presented in this presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Now, while we strive to provide accurate and helpful information, we strongly encourage attendees to seek the guidance of a qualified legal professional for specific questions, concerns related to their individual circumstances. I've done these presentations a time or two, okay? Feel free to ask me, oh, hey, there's something going on. That's fine. It's not legal advice, okay? Because everything is specific, like I said, to your situation. So do not take what I tell you today and run out in the world and think you have solved your problem, okay? What I hope to do is get you to think and understand the importance, as Clifton said, to take action. You need to take action. Not only the people in this room, but those that are watching us on social media. Take action. Hopefully that action is to set up a consultation with an attorney. I know a little bald-head attorney that would be more than happy to talk to you. But yes, so this does not constitute legal advice. This is for informational purposes only. So, we ready to go?
Yes, sir.
I forgot one person. I thank Clifton. There's someone else that I have to thank, and I have to thank you. I have to thank you for getting up on a Saturday morning or tuning in on a Saturday morning to invest in yourself and getting this information. So give yourselves a round of applause. Now, y'all see how that was the biggest round of applause that we had all morning? But that's all right. All right. So we've got a couple of things we're going to talk about. And again, hopefully this sparks questions, because when I get through talking, we're going to open it up to a panel discussion. So don't expect all the answers, but as I go through this presentation, if you have a question, write it down so we can address it and hopefully get that conversation and that flow going back and forth. We've talked a lot about an estate plan. What is an estate plan? What's included in an estate plan? I am going to give you what is known as the typical law school answer. It depends, okay? As I told you, your situations are different, your goals are different, so it depends. It's not one size fits all. However, there are some basic building blocks to every estate plan. We've all heard of wills and trusts, correct? Everybody over the age of 18 needs a will, okay? Whether you have a will or a trust, you need to have a will, okay? And we'll talk about the differences of those later. What a will does is a will lays out your wishes for what happens to your assets when you pass away. But it does something else. It also names your executor. What is an executor? That is the person who's going to be in charge of settling up your affairs, distributing your assets, paying your debts, going through that process, okay? So you get to identify your family members and say, hey, this is who gets what, this is who's in charge. Also want to point out, you also get to say who doesn't get what, right? Sometimes it's not always about who we're giving things to. Sometimes it's making sure that, hey, my sister don't get my plate, all of those sorts of things. And my brother does not get my truck. He's been side-eyeing that for far too long. But it puts you in charge of that plan, okay? An estate plan not only takes care of what happens when you pass away, but it also must include what happens for unexpected things in life. So it's not just about when you leave. There are things that can happen to you while you're here, and you need to have those documents in place. So there are several documents in case of incapacity. So that is a durable power of attorney. It's a financial document that allows a person of your choosing to handle your business for you in the event that you cannot, okay? A medical power of attorney. If for some reason you cannot make medical decisions for yourself, who is that individual to make those medical decisions for you? I want to point out, those documents are in place and active and important while you are still on this side of heaven, right? If you are building a business, if you just have life going on, if something happens to you when you're in the hospital and you come out and you recover, you want to come back to a life that's still on track. While this is on my mind, one of the things, some of the pushback I hear from clients about this is, well, I'm married, right? So my spouse is my next of kin, so I don't need a financial power of attorney. If something happens to me, my spouse can take care of that. I will tell you a situation that really happened. So husband and wife, husband has a stroke, he's in the hospital on life support. Their household was set up as such. He had a separate account, she had a separate account, and they had a joint household account. So they would put the money here, pay bills out of that. He's out of work, he's in a coma. His disability, his insurance, thank goodness, is kicked in, but it was set up to go directly to his separate account. The wife is taken off work. She's taking FMLA so that she can go and be by her husband. Makes sense, but guess what? She's not, there's no income coming in from her. She tries to go to get access to his bank, and she doesn't have it. And she's like, well, I'm the wife. They said, well, congratulations. We'll send you an anniversary gift. But that does not give you access to his separate account, okay? So money is literally piling up in his account, and she is running out faster than you can imagine. Having her set up as a power of attorney and actually having those documents could help in a situation like that. The other thing, people say, well, I don't need a medical power of attorney because I'm married. My spouse can make that. Heaven forbid you guys are in a car wreck together or an accident together and you're in operating room A and your spouse is in operating room B. Who's making those decisions then? It allows you to put an alternate there. Other documents that we can put into your estate plan that are highly recommended is a HIPAA form. It allows your doctors to discuss your medical information with whoever you put on the form. Highly recommended to whoever you put on your medical power of attorney. Just kind of works together that way. And also an advance directive. That is where you let your loved ones and your family members know what your wishes are should you ever find yourself on life support. Okay?
Is that advanced directive?
Directive. So it's advance directive to physicians. It lets your family members and your loved ones know if you, for whatever reason, are on life support, do you want to go peacefully or remain on life support until the Cowboys win the Super Bowl? You will be here for a long time, looks like, okay? Now, those are the building blocks and some of the most common things, but there are so many other documents and tools at our disposal, which is why I encourage you to sit down and talk to an estate planning attorney. There are documents for guardianship for minor children, okay? That is one of the hardest decisions that my young couples have to make. If something happens to both of us, who will take care of my children? I have given them advice and things that they didn't know. The person that is in charge of your child's finances and the person that is in charge of your child's person and raising them with the morals that you believe in, they do not have to be the same person, right? So if your brother is really good with finances, but he's in Vegas and Miami every weekend, and your sister is really, you know, she's really in line with your beliefs and how you would raise your children, but she can't manage her way out of a wet paper bag, guess what? We can split those. But you would know that, a lot of people would know that, I should say, unless they have that conversation. But guess what? There's another document that's important that I talk to people about. That's called advanced guardianship in the event of your own incapacity, right? There is a spectrum of life. You're just not living and dead. Sometimes there's an in-between, right? And if something happens to you where you need a guardian, where you need a warden, it was a traumatic head injury, dementia has gotten to the point that someone needs to kind of take control of your life, wouldn't you like to have a say-so in who that is? You remember that saying, there's an app for that? Yeah. Well, guess what? There's a document for that, all right? So there aren't very many situations where there aren't a document that we can put and address that. But you have to talk to an attorney, preferably an estate planning attorney, but that's a whole nother conversation. So what's included in an estate plan? Also, because I want to bring this up, estate planning is not just for wealthy people. It's not just for people who are concerned about wealth, okay? My clients have ranged from 18 years old to 90. She might have been 101. I might have to go back. But she was either 98, 99, or over 100, okay? Everywhere in between, every asset level in between, okay? From a modest estate to millions. There is something that you need. So, well, I don't have a lot of stuff, okay? I just got my car, maybe a house. I don't care if it's 2 nickels. They your 2 nickels, okay? And we need to protect your 2 nickels and make sure your 2 nickels go where they need to go. There are other documents, such as a transfer on death deed, that will allow you to transfer your property outside of probate. We kind of touched on this, and thank you guys for teeing this up. There are probate assets and non-probate assets. Non-probate assets do not have to go through the court proceeding to be transferred. So what are non-probate assets? Essentially anything that has a beneficiary listed on it, okay? If you have insurance with an up-to-date beneficiary, so please make sure you keep those updated, because if you have an insurance policy and the beneficiary that you have listed pre-deceased, you died before you, that's going to be a probate asset because the court has to determine who that goes to. But typically, if there's a beneficiary listed, it doesn't have to go through the probate process. There's a way to do that for some of your bank accounts. There's a way to do that for some of your real estate holdings, okay? Those are not silver bullets, but those are tools at our disposal. Figuring out whether or not that's a good method for you and your estate plan requires you to sit down with someone and take a look at all of that, okay? So those are some of the things that are included in an estate plan. Do I need a will, a trust, or both? How many people have heard people talk about trust nowadays? Trust is the way to go. Yeah, you need. How many people have been told you need a trust? You've been told that, okay. How many people have been told the exact reason why a trust is the best method for you and your particular situation? Right, because what happens is we hear all this general information. Oh, you get a trust, you don't have to go to probate. Probate's bad, it's horrible, so get a trust. I want to be respectful of the time, so I'm going to kind of shorten this. You still need a will if you have a trust. A will and a trust are your 2 primary avenues for estate planning, okay? Even if you get a trust, you should have a will that works with that trust. It is a special type of will called a pour-over will, okay?
Say again?
It's a special type of will called a pour-over will. Let me explain to you the differences and show you how they work. A will transfers your assets when you pass away, when you die, okay? You fill it out now, you make sure it's properly drafted, lays out all the necessary instructions. When you pass away, your loved ones go through the probate process. They take it to court, judge signs off on it, move forward, and then the assets are distributed. That's a will, and that's how it works. A trust is essentially a management document, okay? It lays out all the instructions for your assets. What do you want to happen to them? Who gets them? Who gets payments? All of these sorts of things. It's a management structure. And there are 3 roles in a trust. I say roles and not people because it can be the same person in these roles, or it can be 3 different people. There is the settlor, the person who sets up the trust. So that's you. There's the trustee. The trustee manages those assets in the trust, and the beneficiary benefits from those assets. So you can set up a trust, you can manage the assets that are in the trust, and you can benefit from them. Or you can also make your children or loved ones, you know, your sneaky link, whoever, the beneficiary of your trust. A trust does not have to go through probate, okay? Why is that? Here is the key. If your trust is your primary estate planning document, you have to fund your trust. What do you mean, LD? You have to literally take the things out of your name and put them in the name of the trust. Having a trust alone is only the first step. Setting up the terms and conditions of the trust. You then have to transfer the assets out of your name into the name of the trust. The trust can only control the assets that are in it. Okay? So you have to take the deed. If you have a house, you have to deed the house from yourself to the trust. This is important, and this is why, if you have a trust as your primary estate planning avenue, you need a will to go with it, okay? Try as we may, try as we might, we do not know the circumstances under which we will pass. We do not know the assets that will be in our name when we pass. So if there is an asset that you did not put in that trust, it has to go through the probate process. And if you do not have a will, which we will talk about in a minute, it's going to be, the legal term for it is hotmess.com, okay? All right. So, there's an app for that? There is an app for that. Right. So, you have to have a special type of will with certain terms in it. It's called a pour-over will that works with that says, hey, if there's something that I didn't put in the trust for whatever reason, pour it over into the trust. You see how that works, right? Michael Jackson is one of those celebrities where people say, I just can't believe he's got all this money, all this. How do you not have something together? Michael Jackson had a trust, but he never put anything into it. So it's as if he passed away without an estate plan, okay? So do I need a will or trust? Which one's best? Okay, I get how they work different, but which one is best? Who wants to answer that?
It depends.
It depends. What does it depend on? I'll tell you some of the things that I have my clients consider when trying to make that decision. What is important to you? What does your family look like? What do your assets look like? If you have property in multiple states, so you got some property in California, Texas, and Florida, a trust may be a good fit because real estate has to go through probate in the state that it exists. So when you start having property in multiple states and multiple probates, it gets expensive. A trust tends to make sense. There are some non-financial things to consider. If you have loved ones that may have substance abuse issues or just horrible at managing money, and you want to leave them something, but you know leaving something to them may be more detrimental than beneficial, then a trust may be a good structure because it allows you to leave something to the beneficiary, but be managed by a separate trustee, okay? So there are all types of things to consider, some financial, some are not. That's why you have to sit down and have the conversation. Everyone needs a will. If you need a trust, or if a trust is a good fit for you, it depends. What happens if I die without a will in Texas? Who knows the answer to this? Who said? What? Hotmess.com. No. So if a person passes away in Texas and they don't have an estate plan, they don't have a will, they don't have a trust, we're all familiar with the concept that the wife gets this or the kids get that. Those are called the laws of intestacy, okay? And so there's a saying in my line of work that says, if you do not have a plan for your stuff, the state of Texas has a plan for you, and I assure you, you will not like it, okay? But what happens is the law lays out kids get this much, spouse gets this much, depending on your family makeup, depending on the type of asset, depending on when it was acquired, the whole 9 yards. The issue is, well, who are these people? Who are your kids? Who is your spouse? Okay? So it's a two-step process that is called determination of heirship. So before the court is okay with saying your heirs get this, we have to determine who your heirs are. And so that process includes hiring an attorney, having that attorney fill out an application to get the process started with the court. You have to have 2 witnesses to come in and testify in court to, yes, these were their kids, yes, this was their spouse. There's notices that need to go out. Then the court has to appoint another attorney that your family has to pay for to verify everything that you said. They have to then interview the witnesses. They have to come to court. It's this long, drawn-out process. And when you hear people say, oh, we went to probate court, probate was a hot mess.com, it's typically because they didn't have a will. Whether you have a will or you go through probate because you don't have a will, it all falls under that probate umbrella. But the process with a will is a lot simpler, a lot less expensive, and a lot more straightforward, okay? Because in your will, you say, this is me, this is my family, this is what they get. Over here, without that, the court and witnesses and all of that have to attest to that. That's just the first step. Okay, well, now that we figured out who your people are, this is what they get. But who's going to be in charge? Because see, in your will, you told us who your executor was. So guess who gets to determine who's in charge? Not yet. Your heirs. The same people who can't figure out who's going to make the macaroni and cheese on Thanksgiving now have to decide who's going to be in charge and who they trust to divvy up the decedent's assets. How do y'all think that's going to go?
Hot mess.
That's what I'm talking about. All of that can be avoided. Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you something. And it breaks my heart every time I tell this story. There's a client, father passed away. Father did not have a will. Only child. Nobody in the family is disputing that this was this person's child and only child. However, the court has certain requirements. If a person, a male, passes away, paternity has to be established. If you say that's your daddy, how that's your daddy? Okay, I'm gonna talk to y'all like my family, right? You say that's your daddy, how you know that's your daddy? So the law lays that out. Did he sign the birth certificate? This particular situation, no. Was he married to your mother when you were born? No. Did you live in the same house with him for the first 2 years of your life? No. Okay. So those are statutory requirements to establish paternity. Very easy. Unfortunately, they didn't meet those. Okay. So then what do we do then? Anybody? Take a guess?
DNA test?
A DNA test. Fantastic. This is an only child. Okay? So there are no siblings that we could test. Dad has passed. Grandparents have passed. So we look to dad's siblings. All of dad's siblings were half siblings. So any DNA test would have come back inconclusive. So the DNA test is not a viable option. So what do we do then?
Birth records? Birth records?
No, no.
The state will have to take over them.
No. You keep trying to give it to the state. The state wants y'all to. Let me tell you, we have to consider exhuming the body. Wow. That is a tough, expensive, and emotionally draining conversation and undertaking, okay? And do you know how all of that could have been avoided? A simple will. If you would have just, if Papa would have just had a will and said, hey, this, because I want to point this out. No one in the family was arguing. This was not even caused because of family infighting, okay? So it's important. These are things, but because the court needs to follow the law to determine the child, this is what you're left with. I told you, if you don't have a plan and if you don't have your documents, the state has them, and you're probably not going to like them. I will also say this. One of the common misconceptions, still to this day, is if I'm married, my spouse gets my stuff. No. Thank you. All right? So it depends on your family structure, especially if you are a blended family. If you have stepchildren, I've had conversations over and over again having to tell a widow that the house that she bought while she was married with her now deceased husband She gets to keep her half, and her husband's half goes to his children. Do you know that there's a simple way to avoid that? Have a will or a transfer on. Have the conversation and put some documents in place. All right. All right. This is another question that I often get. Okay, I get it. I need to talk to somebody because I'm not sharing my house with them people. I don't even want them coming over for Thanksgiving, okay? What do I look for in an estate planning attorney? I'm going to say this. I'm going to switch around how I typically say this. One of the things that you need to look for in an estate planning attorney, insurance provider, a financial advisor, a real estate agent, a real estate broker, someone with some type of cultural competency, okay? Someone who cares enough to get up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning and come talk to you, okay? I'm just gonna say it. This man been doing this for 13 years. Don't y'all go get no other, I said that you go get another financial advisor, right? Someone, like there's an exchange here. This man is pouring into you, okay? So show up for those people who obviously care enough to show up for you. That's one thing. In my line of work, where I see cultural awareness being very important, is just one, how we talk to each other, how we have that conversation, understanding some of the obstacles, being able to communicate in a way that other people cannot. One thing that I point out, and I ask my clients when we're doing estate planning, is if they're a part of a sorority or fraternity, okay? Some other attorneys who sororities and fraternities maybe are not a huge part of their culture, don't even know to ask that. Well, why are you asking that? Because you can choose who takes care of your paraphernalia, so that somebody's Uncle Bubba doesn't get your AKA shirt from the Goodwill and walking down the street and cutting yards in it, right? So understanding your culture, understanding that, and having that conversation and being able to talk to you like I'm taking my lawyer hat off and I'm putting my nephew hat on and telling you, get your stuff together. Don't ever be fighting over your stuff, period. So everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Figure it out, okay? Other things to look for in an estate planning attorney. I mentioned this in my introduction. I do estate planning and probate. That's one thing that I recommend that you look for, even if you choose to go with somebody other than this bald-headed man who will stood here and talk to you for 15, 20 minutes. The reason it's important to look for an estate planning attorney who does estate planning and probate is because we know how those terms will be interpreted by the court. We have to deal with wills and trusts that were drafted by other people and see how the court interprets them and how they'll be looked at and whether those will work or not. So there's a knowledge and there's a benefit to working both sides of that equation. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for me. And again, this was to open up the dialogue, hopefully prime you guys and say, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And hey, I saw this happen. And I think we're getting ready to go into our open panel discussion. I have a handout. There's 5 questions. Yes, that's me. So there's information on the back. There's also 5 top questions to ask yourself, some of which we touched on today, some of which we didn't, okay? But you need to ask yourself those questions and see, where am I? Am I prepared? Because the other thing that I want to say, and Clifton did such an amazing job, listen, it's one thing to take care of your stuff, to make sure that your loved ones don't have to go through that mess, right? But the flip side of that coin is you need to make sure that everybody in your life has their stuff together, so if they leave, you're not the one stuck here dealing with their mess, right? We have to lift each other up and bring each other along the way. I want to thank you for your time and your attention today. My contact information is on that sheet. Email, phone number, the whole 9. As Clifton mentioned, I am offering free consultation until October. Don't call me. Don't do that. Do not call me November 5th saying I need a free consultation, right? Clifton has been very, very specific. We want to take action. Send me an email. Let's set up a virtual consultation via Zoom or however, whatever's best for you. 30 minutes, we can talk about your specific situation. We're doing that in October because it is National Estate Planning Awareness Month. It is a real thing. So again, thank you all for your time and attention today.
So give it up to everybody. Come on, come on. So Charmaine's going to be our moderator, and I know you guys have some questions. So go ahead and, as Charmaine's getting set up, write down again what action are you going to take as a result of what we've talked about today. How many people are going to take advantage of the 30-minute virtual consultation?
All right.
Right. So I cannot believe the valuable information that you're going to get by really sitting down with an attorney. How many of you have never sat down with an estate planning attorney before? Y'all about to be blessed.
We're gonna change that. We're gonna change that. We're gonna change that.
All right. So now, if you got some questions, don't keep them to yourself, because whatever you're thinking, somebody who's watching is thinking the same thought, or someone here is thinking the same thought and just not bold enough to ask. So go ahead. You got it.
Before we jump into the Q&A session, I just want to come back and mention to you guys, so we need to take action. So as Clifton mentioned, you guys should have been taking notes, but I just want to come back and just share that first thing you need to do is contact the experts. You have a financial planner here, you have an insurance professional, and you have an attorney here. So make sure you contact the professionals, get organized, and then review your stuff annually. And then get to the business of living by leaving and preparing a legacy for your family. And make sure you start having those relevant conversations with the people in your life. All right, let's get started. First question, yes. Should I do my Oprah thing?
Yeah, do your Oprah thing.
I take a lot of ball on this floor.
So, let's say you have a trust. Oh, sorry, my name is Will. Let's say you have a trust, right? And you name the trustee, but it's not like a lawyer or a bank or something like that. It's an individual. What happens if that person ends up dying or incapacitated or deciding they don't want to do it anymore? What happens after that?
Okay. That's an excellent question. What should happen is the successor trustee should step in. And if you worked with an attorney, or if you work with an attorney, they would have had that conversation. So setting up a trust is a deeper consultation. It's a deeper process, because we have to think and talk through multiple scenarios, and that's one of them. So if you're working with me, we're not going to just talk about, hey, okay, if something happens to me, then this person takes over as a trustee. Okay, what if something happens to them? So putting that information and putting those terms in the trust should be able to operate and run itself. But that's an excellent question, and it's one that should be asked during the consultation when you set the trust up.
And I want to add to
Review
that.
it annually.
I want to say something to that, because when I'm sitting with my clients and we're preparing for a meeting with an attorney, I'm usually asking them to come up with 3 different people, like 3 different names for the executor, for any kind of agent. And then the question for you, LD, is when people come to you and they go like, I don't know anybody. Man, if you don't know anybody, it's like we can't just, okay, hold on, let me give you a name. So what do you do to help someone who doesn't feel like they have anybody in their family that's responsible enough, and they don't have anybody on their friends list? Like, how do you help them get through that?
So there are banks and other institutions that have corporate trustees, and we have to have that conversation, and you can name an institution as a corporate trustee to manage that. Now, a lot of that's going to depend on the size of your estate, the size of the trust, if that makes financial sense. I will say 80% of the time when I get that, they actually do know people that they trust. It's just not their immediate family members, because that's the initial thing. Well, I don't fool with my brother, I don't fool with my sister, or I do fool with them, and I fool with them enough to know I ain't trusting them with nothing, right? But when you have that conversation and you have that consultation and you really start to look, well, if you don't have nobody, who are we leaving this trust to, right? Who are the beneficiaries? If they are younger individuals, well, do you think by the time that they, mature to 30 or something like that, maybe they can step in? And this is why it's important not only to review that, but you develop that relationship with your estate planning attorney, just like with any of the other professionals here, because as your life changes, you make updates to that plan, right? The people that are in your life today, there are people that you have not met that will come into your life and be wonderful individuals. And 5 years into that relationship, maybe you need to update that. But initially, we'll have the conversation about corporate trustees and whether or not that makes financial sense. And then we'll actually do a deeper dive into your life about who are these people that you may not be considering.
Very good. Before we jump into the next question, are there any questions online?
No, not yet.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Ben, and my question, or more of a statement, maybe it's both, is I've noticed in my life, now that I've gotten a little older, that generationally speaking, a lot of older people, maybe a generation or two before us, don't really like talking about financial planning and what they have with their children, maybe out of mistrust or for whatever reason they feel that way. How do we get people to, like parents, my parents are both deceased now, but how do you get people to open up to be able to be in a position to talk to you guys as far as what you will inherit in the future, and then, follow that process so that everybody involved is on the same page?
Can I answer that? And then
You want me to-
It starts with you.
Yeah.
I was going to thank you.
Yeah.
But let's piggyback on that. What were we going to say?
Yeah, that's a conversation that we had
Yeah.
prior to the start of this. There are a number of ways, but to your point, absolutely, one of the major ways is it starts with you. Lead by example, not only just for the older generation, but also the younger generation. Make sure your house is in order. Make sure you have your estate plan. Bring them along in the process. It demystifies it for them. It shows them that having a will, putting your assets in order, does not push you any further in line. It doesn't speed up your time. It doesn't do anything like that. If anything, it may keep you here a little longer because you're not stressed about one particular thing, right? So that's one aspect, is lead by example. Show your parents, older generation, as well as your children and younger generation, go ahead and do this. The other thing is have the conversation with them about what they are doing to you if they don't, right? For some people, that's going to work. For some people, they're like, I don't care. But for some people, they're like, listen, especially, I've seen it work more on fathers with daughters and daddy's girls. And Daddy, you have taken care of me. Don't leave me here to fight with these fools. Daddy, just do this. Now the thing is, the father, or the older person in the generation, they're the client. So that conversation about what they want to do and how things are to play out, that's going to have to be a private conversation with the attorney, okay? But getting them to start the process, tell them, please don't leave me. Don't do me like that. Also show them the way, and invite them to events like this. Okay? If there are other events where you hear anybody else talking about estate planning, bring them with you and take them to lunch, and have somebody else do the heavy lifting of explaining why it's important to them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I want to add something to this. So someone said in the chat that they're actually going to watch this with their family members. So they're going to watch
Fantastic.
this episode. And then also in my own family, I know as a parent, I would feel a certain kind of way if my kids were coming to me asking me about my stuff. So my advice is about mirroring what you want the other person to do. My advice with my clients is I actually role play with them. So this is how you should go about it. hey, Aunt Gloria, I want to show you my estate plan because we don't know who's going to pass away first. A lot of times we think that the parents may pass away first, but the children may. Right. So I always talk to my clients who are having a hard time having those conversations with their parents, say, let's get your stuff together, and then you have a sit-down meeting where you don't ask them about their stuff, but you really go through all of your stuff. Tell them about how you have organized all of your affairs to where if you don't wake up tomorrow, someone can come into your house and know how to keep your bills going. And not just not waking up, but what if you're in the hospital for 3 months? Yeah. Who's going to be able to keep your bills paid? So lay all of that stuff out. Right. And then when you talk about not only the power of attorney and the medical power of attorney, but then in passing, hey, here are the people who are going to be performing these roles. And the question I have for you, LD, is that once you have your documents together, a lot of times there's no further conversation with the executor or the agent. Do you actually sit down with your clients and the people who are in the will performing those roles? Because a lot of times they don't know what to do. Yeah. Right? So talk to us about that.
No, that is important. This opens the door for two things, right? You guys have probably been hit with an ad, maybe on Facebook or something. Go to this website and do your own will, right? Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. A good portion of my practice is probating wills that have been done online incorrectly. They're missing certain language. But you also eliminate the ability to be advised by an attorney on what to do with these documents. When you come to me and my clients and we go through the estate planning process, part of once we sign these documents, we have a conversation about what to do with them, who to send them to, how to explain to them how to utilize these documents. I'm a big storyteller. I tell stories about things that have happened to my mentors when I'll tell you, he's a mentor of mine. I was sick with COVID, had all of his documents. This is the first wave of COVID. They rushed him. He didn't take his charger for his cell phone. His children are trying to get updates on him, but he was quarantined, so they couldn't go to the hospital, so they were trying to call. And the doctors are saying, well, where's the HIPAA form? I don't know. He had it, but he didn't tell anybody what to do with it. This is the invaluable information that you will get when you work with an attorney experienced in this line of work. Going online, you're not going to get that. You're going to get 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the wrong document. So with me, in particular, we sit down and we have that conversation. This is how you care for your will. This is where a will needs to be stored. This is what to do with it. These documents, which I call your living and breathing documents, your power of attorneys, any of your directives and things like that, this is what you do with them. Here are great places to store them. I actually hand out a piece of paper that it's instructions to your agent. It tells your agent how to operate, how to decline, how to sign documents, all the things that you don't even know that you need. Okay? So it's important to have that conversation, and a true estate planning professional will do that. MyFreeWill.com is not going to do that for you. Okay.
Okay, hello. I'm originally from North Carolina, and to add to what he was asking, sometimes we don't forget about tough love when it comes to our seasoned relatives, because in my case, many of my relatives, they were quite stubborn when it came to wanting to do that. So what we had to do is use tough love and say, well, the government, the state gonna come in and take your stuff. Oh no, I'm doing it right now, and they got to work. So it just depends on that individual. And I think what Clifton said is very good, because if they sit down and show them the video, and then it breaks it down and gives them more logical reasons as to why. But in my family from North Carolina, a lot of times they would use that, the state government will come in and get your stuff, and they were like, no, they're not. So they would be willing to sit down and do their will in the estate plan. Because sometimes they're not gonna listen to you as a relative. They don't want to hear from you for some reason, especially the seasoned ones, because they think that they know more than you, and they know better. So that was one thing that worked for me.
Thank you.
Great point. Thank you. Yes.
I think I'm okay without the mic.
No, this is for the people online.
For the people online.
So my name is Bradley. I have a friend who's watching online from California, and she's planning to relocate here next year during the summertime. She has a son that's 19 and 2 other kids as well, and she's a single mom. But she wants to know if she can start working with you guys now, being that she's residing in California currently, to get that process started.
I know, I'm licensed in Texas, Arkansas. So we have to have those state licenses. We can give general information, and if she wants advice on reviewing and just kind of like a ear to lean on and things of that nature, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for her. I'm available for that, yes.
And then for LD.
Yeah, so she can absolutely start having those conversations with me, and I think it brings up a great point. Estate laws are different in every state, okay? So if you do move from North Carolina, from California, if you have friends that have moved and migrated here, as many of us have, it's important that they review their estate plan, if they had a will or if they didn't. So she and I can absolutely start having those conversations. She can start letting me know what her goals are, what she wants to do, and start getting that information done. And then when she is an actual resident here, then we can go ahead and sign those documents and make them official.
And from my perspective, the short answer is yes.
I got to work on those short answers.
Hi, I'm Kendra. So this is going to be very transparent, but being someone that is single, childless, I don't own my car outright. I rent I'm renting. One of the things that I struggle with wills is like, what am I doing? Just like leaving someone to pay my debt when I'm like, let the student loan people fight it out amongst themselves. So I know there's a lot like me that have the same mindset, especially in my network. How might we need to start, or how can we start reframing that network, or how should we be reframing our mindset when it comes to our particular situation, feeling like I don't have, get the TV,
Yeah. No, I think that's an excellent question, and I do.
And I will say this, I think it's also like, we think that the financial investment that it would take to go work with an attorney and get a will isn't worth who gets the TV, right? Like that kind of thing. That's a great question.
Yes. So to directly answer the question, we don't know what we will own when we pass away. What you own today or what you don't own today, that may or may not be the same tomorrow. And so we craft a will in such a way that it kind of gives you time and gives you the ability to grow your assets, okay? And when I say we don't know what we'll own or how we'll pass away, if your family needs to file a wrongful death lawsuit on your behalf, the money, you gone. So who gets that money, right? Your will determines that. If you are in the middle of a lawsuit, and you pass away, and you get this huge settlement, your will determines that. So the will, when properly drafted and crafted, takes care of the known and unknown, right? So yeah, I have a lot of people who are in your situation, single, no kids, I don't really think they have a lot, but the cost, if something were to happen, and there was a substantial amount of money in your estate, the cost to get that done and processed without a will far exceeds what it would cost to do a will with me, okay? So you're thinking of not just today, but tomorrow. It's giving you that peace of mind.
Right, Cordell?
I just want to add to this. Kendra, we've never actually met, but we're Facebook friends, so I followed you for quite a while. And, the will is, it's more than just the family, right? You still have your dog, I assume?
Yeah, Ken's still around.
Who takes care of your dog? Who takes care of your dog? And who takes care of the nonprofits that you're a part of, and all of those other things that goes along with life outside of just the immediate family. Your impact is more than just your family. It's all the things and all the people and things that you love. And so that's what the will is about. It's more than just those immediate family members.
Absolutely. And when you sit down and you have that conversation, you can leave whatever you have, your 2 nickels, to those charities, to those nonprofits. I have had clients who have left more money to take care of their fur babies than any relative. And that is perfectly fine, and that's perfectly okay. So there are people or entities or fur babies or whoever that can benefit, and we can sit down and craft that plan. And again, it's what you know, and it's also what you don't know.
And I'd like to add to this, life is about relationships. God can only bless you through people. And one of the things I found out when I was meeting with my clients, and some of my clients really weren't at the level that I could help them from my employer's perspective, I still met with them. And I still gave them advice within that first hour. And so it's important, in my opinion, for you to start building relationships with financial professionals before you're wealthy. Because it's all about trust. And if you're meeting with any financial professional, you already have paper stacked up. It's always a matter of, are they giving me advice just to make money, or do they really know me? So if you start those conversations with people that you feel like you don't have enough to work with them and they're not making you feel bad, then you're really getting to know them. And you're building trust. So I would start with your banker, your financial advisor, the estate planning attorney, your insurance agent. Start meeting with people and start developing those relationships now before you really need them.
And let me say this too. Now, we done stood up here and told you that the estate planning is more than just this will, right? So, do we have a power of attorney? Yeah. Clifton talked about, hey, when you say, I don't have a house, I got my apartment. Who gonna get in your apartment? Who's gonna?
Right.
This is bigger than just when you pass away and get in those documents. If something were to happen to you to just take you out for a couple of months and you come back, do you have the medical power of attorney, the financial power of attorney? And for single individuals, those documents are sometimes even more important. So it's a balancing act to make sure you have all of them in place.
I'm going to add
Have
something
those
else too.
relevant conversations.
Yes.
So you said at 18, people need this. So I was talking to my son, right? And he's thinking he doesn't need anything. My 38-year-old daughter doesn't think she needs anything, but that's another story. The point is, I just asked them, so who do you think is he's in Boston. Who do you think is going to fly to Boston and get your stuff and get you? It's like, do you care about that? It's going to be your mom or me, right? So this need of life insurance when you're single and you don't have any kids, it's like you have somebody that cares enough about you to take care of your final arrangements. And they will probably have to take time off work. They may have to incur some cost. And if you care enough about them, then yeah, even when you don't have much, you need something. Because somebody's going to go through and incur some cost or some time off of work to handle your affairs. Somebody behind you wants to say something.
I'll come right back to you.
Okay. This is for Cordell. Concerning the life insurance and the health insurance that you spoke about earlier, I just want to make sure this is correct because I heard this at another seminar. When it comes to your job, and it made me think about the couple that you gave about the man, he had insurance on himself but not on his wife. So the insurance that you have with your job, it's only while you're working for them, right? If you die, it's not there, right? So shouldn't you have outside insurance to help cover you? I just want to make sure that's, because I heard it at another seminar, and so I made sure I got life insurance stuff outside of my job.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I'm going to pay you for that later. That's absolutely true, right? So we get that insurance through your job, and it's a group rate, so it's nice and affordable. And for the employer, life insurance on there can be literally $5 for $250,000. It's really, really affordable. But what happens if you have a layoff? Like, layoffs are happening big time right now. My wife works in HR. She worked in HR for the last 15, 20 years, and she's constantly talking about the corporate layoffs that are happening. And you don't have that time of, you got laid off today, because the health insurance goes through the end of the month. but the life insurance ends the day you're laid off, right? So you don't have that time to be able to go from I'm laid off, I'm an emotional wreck, and now I have a car wreck. It could happen. I'm not saying that it's likely, but it could. And in the meantime, what happens to you then? Or, like you said, you have the insurance directly for you and your spouse, and you pass, and now your spouse and your kids aren't covered anymore. So we got to make sure that we have those protections. We talk about the pillars of protection, and those pillars of protection are there in the event that you have the job or not. You need to have something that's going to protect you regardless. Right? Now, I don't recommend you go get a separate health insurance if you already have health insurance, but having life insurance, having the disability insurance, having like that, my family is really big with cancer, so we have additional cancer protection. If something like that were to happen, to make sure that we are fully protected in that event, that it doesn't absolutely wipe us out financially.
I just have a really quick question. How important is it to notify, so when you're doing wills, power of attorney, medical power of attorneys, things like that, how important is it to notify the person that you have selected as your beneficiary and things like that? And the reason I'm asking is, so I work in healthcare, and I have seen situations where a person passes away in the hospital, and the person that they had listed on their will or their power of attorney, whatever document, their child or their sibling will not come and collect the body. So then the body goes to, I can't remember where they sent it, at UT Southwestern, but it goes to, yes. So sometimes the body is donated for research, something like that. But how important is it to notify whoever the person is that they've been, or that you'd like for them to be this person?
All right, that's an excellent question, and it's extremely important, right? If I'm giving you the authority and ability to handle these issues as a power of attorney or so on and so forth, it's extremely important that you know you have this authority, that you know how to operate in that authority, and it's something that I tell my clients. I also want to bring this up because this document keeps floating around that I haven't brought up yet, and it's called a designation for disposition of remains. This is a document that says, if I die, this is who is in charge of my body, and this is what I want. I think you said your brother wanted his ashes scattered in California. This is a document where you lay that out, okay? The reason that's important is because the power of attorney, the authority granted to you in a power of attorney ceases the moment that person passes away. You can no longer go to the bank and say, well, hey, my such and such passed away, I'm the power of attorney. That doesn't matter, okay? So that time frame between the person passing and the executor getting appointed, everything is locked down. So the executor is in charge of your assets once they are appointed after you pass away. Your power of attorney is in charge and can make decisions and act as your agent while you are alive. But the moment that you are pass away or your loved one passes away, the power of attorney is about as useful as a glass hammer, okay? It's done nothing. So there's a document for that situation that you brought up about who's in charge of the body and that sort of thing. It's a designation for disposition of remains, and it is crucial that you let people know, hey, I'll put your name on this piece of paper, and this is what I want you to do. You have to communicate that. True.
I don't want your dog.
My name is Dennis, and to the esteemed panel, thank you for your time and your knowledge to share with us. I am working on my 4th generation of my will and trust, so I did this immediately coming out of college. I do understand the importance. I preach the importance, but I'm not following my own advice. So my fourth generation, I am in 12 months of working on that. So this is a two-part question. When you start the will trust process, how much time does a person need to allocate and expect that will take? And in between that time, that gap time, which is where I am, how do we protect where we are at that point of life? Because many of the forms that are a part of that document are short, 1-2 pages. Not a lot of effort to be done. So I'm referring to the power of attorney, the medical power, durable power of attorney. You've got the transfer on death. Do we need to be executing some of those things in the gap while we're completing our will and trust is kind of the overarching question that I'm asking.
So I would, one, recommend that you get with an attorney to help you get through that process. And to answer your question, to be fair and answer your question, it takes a much shorter time to execute a will than it does to put together a whole trust. So with some of my clients, depending on how extensive that trust process is, we will go ahead and do a will that generally outlines what they would want to happen, okay? And then we would work through the trust process, to your point, to stand in that gap while we are completing that drafting process of the trust. And then once the trust is to a point where we are ready to sign and finalize and make that official, we'll update the will to be a pour-over will. So we will do a will that can be, we can get that done. Our process, once we get everything that we need, the drafting process generally takes about 2 weeks, and then we can schedule a signing ceremony, so on and so forth. Get that done so you are covered in the event that something unexpected happens during the lengthier process of doing a trust. It would not take, how many years?
1 year, 12 months.
Okay. It would not take us 12 months to do a trust for you. But what we would do is obviously have more intense counsel, because we would know the questions to ask. You tell me what you want, and we would have that conversation, and that's our efficiency there to help and get that done. So for some people, we can sign all of them at the same time if it's not going to be extremely extensive. If it is something that's going to take longer, to stand in the gap and answer your question, we do recommend that you go ahead and sign some of those more immediate documents so there's something, and then update them once we get to the end.
Okay, there are 3 questions online.
Okay.
One from Gerald Latham, my buddy out in New York, Jasmine Hampton, and Miss Abdullah, if I pronounce her name right. So let me first ask Gerald's question.
Speak up a little more, please.
Gerald, okay, I'll repeat. So Gerald's question is, since each state has different probate laws, if you have assets in different states, does one need to have a will/trust for each state?
Okay. So, no. Your will is for the state in which you reside, because that's going to dictate all of your other assets. Now, as I mentioned in my presentation, if you have real estate in separate states, you are an excellent candidate for a trust. And one trust can allow you to move all of those assets and transfer all of those assets into that one trust. So if you own property in California, Oklahoma, and Texas, you can have one trust and transfer those properties from into the name of the trust. So that would avoid having to go through probate. But you will still have a pour-over will that is drafted and crafted under the laws of the state in which you reside. So if you live in Texas, so for me, we would do a will, a pour-over will, under the laws of the state of Texas, because that's where you live. We would do a trust, and then we would transfer those assets from California, Oklahoma, into your Texas trust.
So it definitely sounds like you need a consultation with a... So the other question is, and this has to do with if you have an agent assigned, and is it important to let the agent know what their role is?
Yeah.
I'll tell you that in my situation, I told my agents that I had them in my will, and one of my cousins just said, yo, dude, you need to take me out of that. So it's good to know in advance so you're not surprising anyone. But this person has asked, this is Jasmine, what all documents will be needed for a airship.
For an airship, okay. So airship is something that we haven't talked about, but we're all kind of probably familiar with, right? Our grandfathers and grandmothers and forefathers may have had land, and they did the best that they knew how to do at that time, okay? And what they knew was to pay the taxes on it and keep it from going to foreclosure. Having these conversations about estate plannings and wills and things like that, that honestly just wasn't happening, okay, for whatever reason culturally. And honestly, there was a huge distrust of attorneys, and rightfully so, let's be honest. So what happens over generations, if there's not estate planning done, grandma or great-grandma and great-grandpa's land then all goes to their kids, and they had 15. And then their 15 had 15. And so now you have all of these acres of land owned by 200-300 people, okay? That is heirship. That's another area of, because it kind of all works together. We, as black people, is everybody here? We own less land today than we did immediately following the Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Some of that is by design, okay? Some of that was intentional from other powers. Some of it is due to lack of estate planning. So what happens with all these 200 acres, say there's 100 acres and now there's 200 people that own it because nobody had a will and all this other stuff. You own that in what's called tenants in common, okay? Which means everybody has a right to that land. You can sell your right. What has happened before, in North Carolina, there's a huge thing about this. There would be an investor who typically did not look like you, would contact your cousin who lived in New York, who didn't know anything about this land, okay, and say, I'll pay you $1,000 for this land that you didn't know you owned. And they said, okay, I don't care. And so now guess what? That investor is now the newest member of your family and has the exact same say-so in what goes on as you do. Which means they can now go to the court and say, we got to sell this. And it forces the sale of this land, they get a property. Now there's some legislation that's gone into place to kind of protect against that, but that's what happens. So that's heirship. So the question was, what documents are needed when dealing with that? When I have heirship clients and they say, hey, we want to see what's going on with this land. We got some land down in East Texas and I don't know what's happening with that, and somebody's saying they want to buy it. The first thing we need to do is do a title search and make sure that you actually still own it. Because all the way through that, someone could have sold it, someone could have given it away, and all of that stuff. So we sit down, we have a consultation, we order a title search on that and see who owns what their percentages are, and then we start having conversations about consolidating that. So the first thing is we'll need deeds, we'll need title searches, we will need any documentation. If anybody did pass away with a will or not, that's the documentation we would need to deal with those heirship issues to start the heirship process.
Okay, and then the last question has to do with, and this is when we were talking about the actual, agents assigning agents to a power of attorney or medical power of attorney, and it was just a clarification question saying that that person has to sign the document to accept the authorization, though. Is that correct?
That is not correct. That is. Yeah. So the question was, if you select someone to be a power of attorney, do they have to sign the document to accept being the power of attorney? And they do not, okay? Now, they do not have to act once they find out, and they can decline, but in order for it to be a valid document, they don't have to accept. Now, the minute they find out about it, they can say, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And they can decline, which is why we have alternates. And so the document is drafted in such a way that says if this person is unable to serve or refuses to serve, then we'll go here. But the document itself is still valid without the signature of the person that you are appointing as the agent for the power of attorney and the medical power of attorney. There are some documents like the disposition of remains. They do need to sign that as acceptance, but those other two main documents, they're not required to sign to accept that, but they can easily decline.
Okay,
Yes, please do.
So I have another question on the heirship one. So let's say you're licensed in Texas.
Yes.
And let's say I live in Texas, but I'm an heir to some land, like I said, in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to handle that, or do you have to get an attorney in the state where the land or the property is?
So because that is such an issue, there is a conglomerate of attorneys that we work together and we have a network. So I would not be able to handle that, but I can connect you with an attorney in North Carolina that can handle that for you.
Okay, I don't have a question, but while I'm walking over to the next question, just wanted to mention how important it is to get life insurance on children and babies. We have a situation personally in our family where my grandson was born healthy, no issues, but then by the time he turned 2, he started having seizures. And once that was on his record, we could no longer get life insurance for him. So think about, insuring your children.
I have 2 questions, and this is coming from someone who lives in Mississippi. So I shared.
That's all right. That's all right.
So her question is, she's been married for 30+ years, and her spouse has a child from a previous marriage. If her spouse was to pass, would that child be still entitled to part of that spouse's estate?
Okay. So she would need to talk to an attorney in Mississippi.
Okay.
If it was Texas, then yes. Okay. So in Texas, because we are a common law, community property state. Okay. With real estate in particular, if you purchase a home or you purchase anything while you are married, even if you say, well, I bought that in my name, if you bought that while you were married with assets or the money, the check that you made while you were married, it's considered community property, okay? That's the presumption that it's community property because it was purchased while you were married. If you do not have a will and there are children outside of the union, if that person passes away and it's a house, that surviving spouse can retain their 50% because it's community property. This is yours. The other 50% will go to their children. Now, if you have a child, if that person had a child outside the marriage and inside the marriage, then it's split between both of those children. So you now own a house with your child and stepchild. If they only had children outside the union, you guys didn't have any together, then their portion goes to their stepchildren. Again, because of the laws that we have in Texas. So that's why it's important that she speak with someone in Mississippi on how their marital assets are accounted for. But there's a simple way, whether you're in Texas or not. Get a will. Just get it done. Like, let's not leave it up to chance. Have the conversation with an estate planning attorney in your state and make sure that things happen the way that you want them to.
Thank you.
Can I make a quick statement on what you said real quick, Charmaine? So I know very well about that situation, and I want to make sure we point out there are things in place for people in that situation. So it's more expensive, obviously, but there are what we call guaranteed issue life insurance policies. That means, to be quite honest, there are no medical questions. It's what's your age, okay, what's your what's your race, things like that, some basic demographic information, and then as long as you keep paying, we're going to give you the life insurance. It's more expensive than getting medically underwritten, but there are ways to be able to make sure that you can still take care of that in those situations.
That's excellent.
Okay. So we're going to have to wrap things up, at least for the online audience. We still have food over there, so we're not done at the venue yet, but I do want to say goodbye to the online audience since we're past 12:30. So first off, tons of appreciation and gratitude, and I want to hear that in the energy of our clap. So thank you. So I want to thank the online audience for sticking in with us. If this was valuable to you, definitely share this video, like it, provide comments. Don't keep us a secret. I ask everybody online and here that there's only 4 things that I'm asking of anyone that is a part of the community of the Empower Series. Number 1, get what you're supposed to get out of the Empower Series. You're here for a reason. There are no accidents. The whole world knew about this and you guys showed up. Everybody knew about this and you're online. There are no accidents. You're here to hear this and act on it. So get what you're supposed to get from the Empower Series. Number 2, I ask you, because I need your help. This needs to go viral. I need you to tell somebody. So thank you for letting it all out. Thank all of you for sharing it. Thank you for being on. So please do not keep us a secret. The only way people are going to be blessed is through you. So please share this with someone else. That's the second thing. The third thing I'm asking is that I do need you to let me know how we're impacting your life. So all of you who are here, you have a hard copy survey. Please take the time to take that survey. We love things to be digital, so there's 2 QR codes. One is for this particular workshop. And the other one is if you've been a part of the Empower Series for the year, we need to measure our impact for the year, because when we go for grants, get funding, saying that we just had a good time but we didn't do anything is not going to work. Right. We need to say that all of y'all signed up for the free 30-minute virtual consultation, that you put your plans together, that you got a vision board, that you started your business, that you're reducing your debt. We need to know how we have impact and transformed your life. That will help us get more funding to put this on, long after I'm gone. And then the 4th thing I ask is this. So once you got what you got from the Empower Series that you're supposed to get, you shared it with someone else, you've let us know how we've impacted your life, then I ask, give of your time, give of your talents, or give of your treasure, right? So you can do that by going to our website. There's a place for you to give us your contact information, how you want to volunteer. We always need digital volunteers. That's people who's going to take our posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and share it with other people. That's how we become viral. If you want to donate, there's a donate button there. If you want to donate by texting, you can text give or donate to 214-255-6337. But more importantly, do the first 3 and we will grow. I want to thank you again for getting what you're supposed to get out of the Empower Series, for sharing it, and letting us know how we've impacted your life. Do not let this be the end. This is just the beginning. So if you have more comments or more questions that you didn't get a chance to ask, go ahead and email me at thrive@empowerseries.com. I will get the answers to you. And until we meet again, be empowered and inspired to thrive. Oh, one more thing. This Monday, I do a podcast every Monday evening at 7 Central Time. Guess who's going to be on my podcast?
Guess who?
LD.
Is it y'all ain't heard enough from me?
You're going to get more from him. But I want to make sure that all of you know about this opportunity to get your estate planning questions asked and answered. I was just telling her, I said, man, is your calendar full? Well, it's about to be, right?
We'll make time.
Yeah, so definitely. So if you want to get more information, please tune into our podcast. It's every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time. It's going to be live, so tune in. And again, God bless you. Thank you for being here and being empowered and inspired to thrive.